The glass shattered before Jungkook could reach him, and Jimin was already standing between him and the broken window with blood running down his palm. "Come any closer." Jungkook stopped. Rain hammered against the windows of the apartment, turning the city beyond the glass into a blur of silver lights and trembling shadows. A cold draft slipped through the broken pane, carrying the smell of wet concrete into the room. Jimin's breathing was uneven. His hand was bleeding, but he seemed not to notice. "Jimin," Jungkook said quietly, "put your hand down." I said stay there. Something in Jimin's voice made Jungkook obey. For weeks, Jimin had been avoiding him, not casually, not because he was busy. He had been deliberately disappearing whenever Jungkook entered a room, answering questions with one-word replies, refusing to sit beside him, and leaving conversations before Jungkook could ask what was wrong. At first, Jungkook had believed he had done something. Then he had believed Jimin was angry. Tonight, however, he finally understood that anger had never been the real reason. Fear was. A sudden crash echoed from the hallway. Jimin flinched. Jungkook saw it, the tiny movement, the tightening of his shoulders, the way his eyes immediately went toward the door. "You're scared," Jungkook whispered. Jimin looked at him. For 1 second, the wall he had built around himself disappeared, then it returned. "I'm fine. You always say that. You always refuse to listen." Jungkook took one careful step forward. Jimin immediately stepped backward. The distance between them felt larger than the entire room. "Why are you doing this?" Jungkook asked. Jimin said nothing. "Why do you keep pushing me away?" Silence. "Did I hurt you?" Jimin's fingers curled around his bleeding palm. "Then tell me what happened." "I can't." "Why?" "Because if I tell you, you'll stay." Stared at him. The answer made no sense. "That what you want?" Jimin's expression cracked. "No." His voice became smaller. "That's exactly what I'm afraid of." Flash of lightning illuminated the room. For the first time, Jungkook noticed the envelope lying on the floor beside Jimin's feet. It was wet. The corner had been torn open. "What is that?" Jimin looked down. His face changed. "Nothing." Jungkook moved toward it. Jimin reacted immediately. "Don't." The desperation in his voice stopped him. Jimin bent down, grabbed the envelope, and held it tightly against his chest. Jungkook watched him. "You're hiding something from me. Protecting you." "What?" Jimin didn't answer. "From who?" Still nothing. Jungkook's jaw tightened. "You've been acting like I'm dangerous." Looked away. "Then why won't you look at me?" That question finally broke something. Jimin slowly raised his eyes. There was exhaustion in them and guilt, a kind of guilt Jungkook had never seen before. "I'm trying to make you hate me." Jungkook froze. "What? If you hate me, it'll be easier." "Who? For you?" Jimin's voice trembled. "If something happens to me, you won't come looking." Jungkook felt the blood drain from his face. "What do you mean, if something happens to you?" Jimin said nothing. "Jimin, I told you not to come closer." "I don't care." "I do. I don't care anymore." Jungkook crossed the room. Jimin tried to retreat, but his back hit the wall. "Tell me the truth." "Jungkook, tell me." Jimin closed his eyes. When he opened them again, tears were gathering at the corners. "I received the first message 3 weeks ago." Jungkook's breathing stopped. "What message?" "A photograph." Reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. His fingers shook as he opened the gallery. He turned the screen toward Jungkook. The photograph showed Jungkook standing outside the studio, alone. The timestamp was 2 days earlier, but Jungkook remembered that day. He had never noticed anyone taking the picture. Another photograph appeared, Jungkook entering a car, another, Jungkook leaving the dorm, another, Jungkook asleep beside a window, his stomach tight. "Who took these?" "I don't know." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because the message said you would be next." Looked at him. "What?" Jimin swallowed. "It said if I didn't stay away from you, they'd make you disappear." The rain seemed suddenly louder. Jungkook stared at the photographs. His mind raced through every strange moment from the past month. The unknown number calling at night, the black car parked outside the studio, the unfamiliar figure he had noticed near the building, Jimin's sudden coldness. Every unanswered question suddenly formed a terrifying pattern. "You should have told me." "I couldn't." "You could have." "No." Shook his head. "You don't understand." "Then make me understand." "I was afraid." Jungkook's expression softened. "Them." Jimin looked at him. "Of losing you." Words came so quietly that Jungkook almost missed them. Jimin pressed the phone against his chest. "I thought if I pushed you away hard enough, you'd eventually stop caring." His voice broke. "I thought if you hated me, you'd be safe." Jungkook took another step. This time, Jimin didn't move away. "I didn't stop caring," Jungkook whispered. "I know." "Then why didn't you trust me?" "Because I knew what would happen." "What?" You would choose me. Stared at him, Jimin laughed bitterly through his tears. You always do. A long silence followed, then Jungkook reached for Jimin's injured hand. Jimin hesitated before allowing him to take it. You're bleeding. I don't care. I do. Jungkook gently wrapped his fingers around Jimin's wrist. You don't get to decide that I'm safer without you. Jimin lowered his head. I was trying to save you. You almost destroyed yourself doing it. Jimin's shoulders trembled. Jungkook pulled him into an embrace. For several seconds, Jimin remained completely still. Then his hand slowly closed around Jungkook's jacket. I was so scared, he whispered. Jungkook held him tighter. I know. No, you don't. Then tell me. Jimin pressed his forehead against Jungkook's shoulder. I was scared that one day I'd wake up and find out you were gone because I couldn't protect you. Jungkook closed his eyes. You don't have to protect me alone. Jimin's grip tightened. I don't know how to stop. Then learn with me. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. For the first time in weeks, neither of them moved away. But neither noticed the small red light blinking on the other side of the broken window. Someone was watching. And whoever had been sending Jimin those photographs had not stopped. They had only been waiting. The next morning, Jimin woke before sunrise. Jungkook was asleep on the couch beside him, one hand still loosely holding his sleeve. For a moment, Jimin simply watched him. The soft rhythm of Jungkook's breathing made something inside his chest ache. He had spent weeks convincing himself that distance was protection. Now he understood how wrong he had been. Jimin carefully stood and walked toward the kitchen. His phone vibrated. He froze. One message. Unknown number. Jimin stared at the screen. There was a single sentence. You finally told him. His fingers went cold. Another message arrived. Now both of you are in danger. Jimin looked toward the living room. Jungkook was still asleep. Jimin slowly locked the phone. For the first time, he didn't hide the message. He walked back to Jungkook and sat beside him. When Jungkook opened his eyes, Jimin was already looking at him. What happened? Jimin took a deep breath. I need to tell you everything. Jungkook sat up. Then tell me. Looked toward the window. The city was beginning to wake beneath a pale morning sky. I don't think the person threatening me is a stranger. Jungkook's expression changed. Who is it? Jimin lowered his voice. Someone who knows us. The words remained between them. Neither spoke for several seconds. Then Jungkook reached for his hand. Whatever waited beyond that morning, they would face it together. Not because the danger had disappeared. Not because Jimin's fear was gone. But because, for the first time, he had stopped running from the person he was most afraid to lose. And Jungkook finally understood the truth behind every cold glance, every unanswered message, and every painful distance. Jimin had never stopped caring. He had cared so deeply that he had mistaken losing someone temporarily for protecting them forever. Now, as sunlight slowly entered the room, Jimin whispered the words he had been too afraid to say. I was cold because I was afraid. Jungkook squeezed his hand. And I was afraid because I couldn't imagine losing you. Looked at him. I'm sorry. Shook his head. Just don't disappear again. Jimin's eyes filled with tears. I won't. This time he meant it. The message remained on Jimin's screen long after the morning light had filled the room. Jungkook read it again. You finally told him. His expression hardened. Give me the phone. Handed it over without resistance. Jungkook examined the number, the timestamp, and the message history. There were no previous conversations, no profile picture, no identifiable name. Did they ever call you? Once. Nights ago. What did they say? Jimin hesitated. They knew where I was. Looked up. Where? The rooftop. A chill moved through him. That night you told me you wanted to be alone. I did, but someone was there. Nodded slowly. I heard footsteps behind me. Didn't you tell me? Because when I turned around, there was nobody there. Jungkook placed the phone on the table. Someone has been watching you. I know. You thought pushing me away would solve that. Jimin lowered his eyes. I thought making you invisible to me would make you invisible to them. That doesn't make sense. I know. Jimin's voice was barely audible. But fear doesn't always make sense. Became quiet. He knew that sentence was true. For weeks, he had been angry because Jimin's behavior had hurt him. He had mistaken silence for rejection and distance for resentment. Now he realized there had been something much heavier underneath fear. Not fear of Jungkook, fear of losing him. Jungkook reached across the table. Show me everything. Looked at him. Photograph, every message, every call. Jungkook, no more secrets. Jimin's fingers tightened around the edge of his sleeve. After several seconds, he nodded. They spent the next hour going through Jimin's phone. There were 12 photographs. The first showed Jungkook leaving the studio. The second showed him entering a convenience store. The third showed him sitting alone in a cafe. The fourth showed Jimin and Jungkook walking together. The fifth showed them laughing. The sixth showed Jungkook placing a hand on Jimin's shoulder. Jungkook stopped scrolling. That one. Looked at the screen. What about it? When was this taken? 2 weeks ago. Where? Behind the studio. Jungkook studied the photograph. The image had been taken from a distance. Behind them stood a dark vehicle. Its license plate was barely visible. Jungkook zoomed in. Jimin leaned closer. Can you see it? Not clearly. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. There, pointed at the reflection in the window. A person was standing beside the car. The face was obscured, but something about the silhouette felt familiar. Jimin stared at the screen. His breathing changed. What? I've seen that jacket before. Where? Jimin didn't answer immediately. Then he whispered, at the studio. Looked at him. You're sure? Yes. Many times. 3. A heavy silence settled over the room. Jungkook stood, going back there. Immediately shook his head. No. That's exactly where they want us to go. Jungkook stopped. Jimin stood as well. They've been watching the studio. If we suddenly return there together, they'll know I told you. Maybe that's what we need. Stared at him. You want to make yourself a target? I already am. No, Jimin grabbed his wrist. You don't understand. I understand enough. No, you don't. Jimin's voice echoed through the apartment. He immediately looked away. His breathing became uneven. I can't lose you. Jungkook softened. You won't. You can't promise that. No, Jungkook gently touched his shoulder. I can promise I won't run from this alone. Looked at him, something in his expression finally relaxed. They left the apartment shortly afterward. The sky was gray. The streets were still wet from the night's storm, and the smell of rain lingered between the buildings. Jimin sat silently in the passenger seat. Every few minutes he glanced at the side mirror. Jungkook noticed. You're doing it again. What? Checking behind us. I need to know. You don't have to do that anymore. Yes, I do, Jungkook sighed. You've been doing this for weeks, haven't you? Jimin looked out the window. Yes. Badly. Yes. Skipping meals. Jimin didn't answer. Jungkook glanced at him. You've been skipping meals. I forget. You don't forget. Gave a faint smile. You always notice. Of course I notice. The smile disappeared. Jimin looked down at his hands. That's what scares me. What? You notice everything about me. Jungkook frowned. And one day someone will use that against you. Jungkook reached over and briefly squeezed his hand. Then we'll be careful. Studio appeared ahead. Jungkook slowed the car. Neither of them spoke. The building looked ordinary, too ordinary. Jimin stared at the entrance. I don't like this. Me neither. They entered through the side door. The hallway was empty. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Their footsteps echoed against the polished floor. Jimin suddenly stopped. Jungkook turned. What? Jimin pointed toward the floor. There was a small black object near the wall. Jungkook bent down. It was a memory card. He looked at Jimin. Was this here before? No. Jungkook picked it up. They entered an empty practice room. Jungkook inserted the memory card into a computer. One folder appeared, no name, just a date. Jimin's face went pale. What date? Jungkook looked at him. Birthday. Jimin stopped breathing. The folder contained dozens of files, photographs, audio recordings, short videos. Jungkook opened the first video. The screen showed Jimin leaving the building. The footage was clearly recorded from across the street. Another video showed Jimin entering his apartment. Another showed him walking alone through a parking garage. Then came a video neither of them expected. Jimin and Jungkook were sitting together in the studio. They were laughing. The recording had been taken from inside the room. Jimin immediately stepped away from the computer. No, stared at the screen. They were inside. Jimin's face had gone completely white. They were here. Jungkook closed the laptop. We're leaving. No, Jimin looked at him. We need to know who. We'll find out. If we leave now, we don't know if this place is safe. A sound came from the hallway. Both froze. Footsteps, slow, measured, coming toward them. Jungkook moved in front of Jimin. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Jimin's fingers wrapped around Jungkook's sleeve. The handle began to turn. Jungkook whispered, "Stay behind me." Door opened. A familiar face appeared. Jimin's eyes widened. Hyung, the man looked at both of them, then at the computer. His expression changed. You weren't supposed to find that. Stepped forward. What is going on? The man closed the door behind him. He looked at Jimin. I tried to warn you. Jimin's voice trembled. Warn me about what? The man hesitated. Then he said quietly, the person who has been watching you isn't trying to hurt you. Jungkook's expression hardened. Then what do they want? The man looked directly at him. They want Jimin to remember what happened that night. Jimin froze. What night? The man stared at him. The night you forgot. Jimin's face slowly lost all color. Jungkook turned toward him. Jimin. Jimin didn't answer. He was staring at the floor. His breathing became shallow. A memory had begun returning. A dark road, rain against a windshield, a hand gripping his shoulder, a voice whispering his name. And Jungkook screaming somewhere in the distance. Jimin suddenly covered his ears. No, Jungkook grabbed his shoulders. Jimin, look at me. I remember. What? Jimin's eyes filled with terror. I remember why they started watching us. Looked at Jungkook, his lips trembled. It wasn't because of me. Jungkook waited. Jimin whispered, it was because of you.
I remember your voice. Jimin's words fell into the room like something fragile breaking. Jungkook stared at him. Voice? Jimin nodded slowly, one hand pressed against his temple. Rain, a car, you were shouting. Man standing near the door remained silent. Jungkook turned toward him. What happened that night? I think Jimin should tell you. I don't remember everything. Then start with what you do remember. Jimin closed his eyes. The room disappeared. For a moment, he was somewhere else, a narrow road. Black asphalt shining beneath heavy rain, the smell of gasoline, headlights cutting through the darkness, his own hands shaking against a steering wheel, and Jungkook's voice. Don't move. Jimin's eyes opened suddenly. He gasped. Jungkook immediately caught him before his knees gave way. I'm here. Gripped his jacket. You were there. Where? The accident. Jungkook froze. What accident? Jimin looked at him. You don't remember either. Jungkook's face changed. Man near the door slowly pulled out a chair. Both of you were involved in an accident almost a year ago. Stared at him. That never happened. It did. I would remember. You were unconscious for hours. Jimin shook his head. No, we were told there was nothing. You were told that because someone wanted you to forget. Filled the room. Jungkook looked toward Jimin. Who? The man didn't answer. Instead, he placed an old photograph on the table. Jimin slowly approached it. His hands began shaking. The photograph showed two cars on a rain-soaked road. One was badly damaged. The other had stopped several meters away. Jungkook recognized the second vehicle immediately. His face went pale. That was my car. Looked at him. You remember, not the accident. Jungkook touched the photograph. I remember this car. The man nodded. You were driving. Jimin's breathing became unsteady. I was with you. Yes. Don't I remember? Because your memory was affected. Looked at Jimin. Mine, you suffered a concussion. Shook his head. Then why did nobody tell us? Because the accident wasn't random. The room seemed to grow colder. Jungkook looked toward the door. Someone caused it. Man nodded. Someone wanted your car to crash. Jimin's eyes filled with tears, and they failed. They did. Then why are they still watching us? The man's expression became grim. Because they believe you remember something. Swallowed. What? A face. Jungkook frowned. Whose? The person who caused the accident. Jimin closed his eyes again. A flash. A shadow standing beneath a street lamp, a hand holding an umbrella, a silver ring, then a voice. You shouldn't have seen me. Opened his eyes. The ring. Jungkook turned toward him. What ring? The person had a silver ring. Man immediately looked at Jimin. Are you sure? Yes. Else a scar. Where? His left hand. Man became silent. Jungkook noticed. You know who it is. I have a suspicion. Tell us. I can't. Jungkook's voice hardened. You brought us here. You showed us the evidence. You told us someone is watching Jimin. Now you're saying you know who caused the accident. The man stood. If I'm wrong, then we'll deal with being wrong. You don't understand what you're asking. I understand that Jimin has spent weeks terrified because someone threatened him. Stepped closer. Stop protecting us from the truth. Man looked at Jimin, then at Jungkook. Finally, he spoke. The person you're looking for may be someone you trust. Jimin's stomach dropped. Who? Before the man could answer, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Jimin immediately reached for Jungkook. Don't move. Here. Crashed in the hallway, then another sound. Footsteps fast. The man moved toward the door. Stay here. Grabbed his arm. Door suddenly slammed open. A figure rushed through the darkness. Jungkook reacted instinctively, pulling Jimin behind him. The figure disappeared down the corridor. Jungkook, they ran. Their footsteps echoed through the empty studio. The figure turned a corner. Jungkook followed. Jimin was close behind. They reached the emergency exit. The door was swinging open. Rain poured outside. Nobody was there. Jungkook looked around. Then he saw something on the ground. A silver ring. Jimin stopped beside him. His face changed. That's it. Jungkook picked it up. A tiny symbol was engraved inside, a crescent moon surrounded by 3 small lines. Jimin stared at it. I've seen that before. Where? Jimin's eyes moved slowly toward the man. The man had followed them outside. His face was expressionless. Jimin whispered, "On your hand." Man looked down. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. Jungkook stepped between them. "You have that symbol." Man said nothing. "Were you there that night?" Still nothing. Jimin's voice broke. "Were you the person who caused the accident?" The man looked at him. "No." Jungkook narrowed his eyes. "Then why do you have the same ring?" The man slowly removed a ring from his finger. It was identical. "I didn't cause the accident." "Then what were you doing there?" The man looked at Jimin. "I was trying to save you." Stared at him. "You expect me to believe that?" "No." The man took a breath. "You will when you remember the rest." A car suddenly appeared at the end of the street. Its headlights turned toward them. Jungkook grabbed Jimin's arm. "Move." The car accelerated. They ran toward the building. The vehicle passed them at terrifying speed before disappearing into the rain. Jimin was shaking. Jungkook held him. "Are you okay?" Jimin nodded weakly. Then he noticed something on the ground, a photograph. He picked it up. It showed the accident scene. But someone had written a message across the back. Jimin turned it over. His hands trembled. Jungkook read the words over his shoulder. "You remembered the wrong person." Jimin looked up. "What does that mean?" The man didn't answer. He was staring at the empty road. Then his phone rang. He answered. His expression changed instantly. "What?" He listened. His face became pale. "Are you certain?" Silence. Then he slowly lowered the phone. Jungkook looked at him. "Happened." The man stared at Jimin. "The person who sent those messages." He swallowed. "They aren't watching you anymore." Jimin frowned. "Then who are they watching?" The man looked at Jungkook. "You." Jungkook couldn't move. The rain struck the pavement around them, but he barely heard it. "Me." The man nodded. "They've changed their target." Immediately stepped closer to Jungkook. The word came out instinctively. The man looked at him. "They know you told him everything." Jimin's face tightened. "What? So now you're no longer useful." Jungkook's eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" The man looked toward the road. "It means they don't need to control Jimin anymore." A distant engine growled. "They can reach him through you." Grabbed Jungkook's sleeve. "We need to leave." Jungkook didn't argue. They returned to the studio and collected their things. The man remained behind. Jungkook stopped at the door. "You're coming with us." "No, you know too much." "That is exactly why I can't." Stared at him. "Then tell me your name." Man hesitated. "Minseok." Memorized it. "Minseok, if you know who is behind this, find them before they reach us." Nodded. "I will." Looked back at him. "You said you were trying to save me." "I was." "Then don't disappear." Minseok's expression softened. "I won't." Jungkook pulled Jimin toward the exit. Neither of them noticed the small camera hidden above the hallway light. Its red indicator blinked once, then twice, and somewhere else in the city someone smiled. The drive home was silent. Jimin kept looking through the rear window. Jungkook finally spoke. "Stop." "What?" Looking back. "I need to know if we're being followed." "You're making yourself sick." Look down. "Sorry." Jungkook sighed. "You don't have to apologize every time you're afraid." Stared at him. "I'm not used to telling people when I'm afraid." "I know." Bite the inside of your cheek. Jimin blinked. "What? You've done it since we were younger." Jimin touched his lips unconsciously. Jungkook smiled faintly. "You also tap your thumb against your index finger when you're nervous." Looked at his hand. He had been doing exactly that. A small smile appeared. "You really notice everything." "I told you." The smile faded. "I wish I hadn't made you notice so much." Jungkook glanced at him. "Why?" "Because now you know how scared I am." Jungkook reached across the console. His fingers touched Jimin's. "I've always known." Looked at him. "Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because I thought you wanted space." Jimin's eyes lowered. "I didn't." "I know that now." They reached the apartment. Jungkook checked the hallway before unlocking the door. Inside, everything looked normal, too normal. Jimin stood near the entrance. Something felt wrong. "What?" Jungkook asked. Jimin didn't answer. He walked slowly toward the living room. Then stopped. The photograph on the wall was crooked. He remembered fixing it that morning. He approached it. Behind the frame was a small piece of paper. Jimin pulled it out. His face went white. Jungkook stepped closer. "What does it say?" Jimin handed it to him. There were only 6 words. "You should have stayed away from him." Jungkook crumpled the paper. "They were here." Jimin's breathing became shallow. "I know. You locked the door this morning." "Yes." "You give anyone your key?" "No." Looked around. Nothing appeared disturbed. Then Jimin noticed something else. His bedroom door was open. "I closed that." Followed him. The room was dark. Jimin slowly reached for the light. Click. Nothing. The bulb had been removed. Jungkook pulled out his phone and switched on the flashlight. A photograph lay on Jimin's bed. It showed Jimin and Jungkook standing together outside the studio. On the back was another message. "One of you will betray the other." Jimin stared at it. "No." Jungkook tore the photograph in half. "Don't believe them." "If it's true." "It isn't." "How do you know?" "Because I trust you." looked at him. You shouldn't. Jungkook frowned. Why? Because I lied to you. The room became silent. Jungkook's expression changed. What did you lie about? Jimin's eyes filled with tears. The night of the accident. Took a shaky breath. I remembered more than I told you. Jungkook slowly lowered his phone. What did you remember? Jimin looked toward the window. I remembered someone getting out of the car. Who? I couldn't see the face. Then what did you see? Jimin's voice became quieter. Their voice waited. I heard them talking to someone on the phone. What did they say? Jimin closed his eyes. They said he stopped. Jungkook stepped closer. They said he wasn't supposed to be in the car. Froze. Who? I don't know. They talking about me? Jimin nodded. I think so. Jungkook's mind raced. Then why did you hide that? Because there was another voice. Whose? Jimin looked at him. You. Jungkook's face went blank. What? I heard you talking to them. I wasn't there. You were. No, shook his head. You were standing beside the car. Stared at him. I don't remember. I know. Then why do you think it was me? Because you said something. Swallowed. You said you promised you wouldn't touch him. Jungkook's breathing stopped. The room seemed to tilt beneath his feet. He stepped backward. I said that. Jimin nodded. Then his phone rang. Both of them looked at the screen. Unknown number. Jungkook answered. Neither spoke. A distorted voice came through. Do you remember now? Jungkook's blood ran cold. Who are you? A quiet laugh. Jimin, what happened after the accident? Looked at Jimin, the voice continued. He remembers. The call ended. Jimin's face crumpled. Jungkook grabbed his hand. Tell me. I can't. Jimin, I can't. Whatever happened, we'll face it. Shook his head violently. You won't say that after you know. Jungkook held his face gently. Then let me know. Stared into his eyes. For several seconds, he couldn't speak. Finally, he whispered. After the accident, his voice broke. I woke up first. Waited. You were unconscious. Jimin's tears fell, and someone came into the hospital room. Who? Jimin looked terrified. They told me that if I wanted you to survive. He stopped breathing for a moment. I had to tell everyone that I was the one driving. Jungkook's eyes widened. You weren't driving. Jimin shook his head. The truth hung between them. I was in the passenger seat. At him? Then who was driving? Jimin slowly raised his eyes. I don't know. A sudden knock sounded at the apartment door. Both froze. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate. Jungkook moved toward the door. Jimin grabbed his arm. Don't. The knocking stopped. Then a voice came from the other side, a voice Jimin recognized immediately. Jimin. His face went completely pale. Jungkook looked at him. Who is it? Jimin couldn't answer. The voice came again. Open the door. Whispered. It can't be. Jungkook's hand moved toward the lock. Who? Jimin stared at the door. Then, barely audible, he said, the person I thought died that night.